Hey everyone, welcome again to another episode of the Industry Show. We are here with the one and only Navneet Chugh at his beautiful residence. Thanks Navneet for inviting us.
My pleasure, thank you.
So tell us a bit more about your background. Where were you born and what did you go to school for and how did you move here to LA?
I born and raised in Nagpur and came here when I was 19, 36 years ago. Came here, did another bachelor's degree and then did MBA from USC. Then finished my CPA and started CPA practice 32 years ago.
Oh.
And then 2 years later won an essay competition for free law school and then started law school and then 25 years ago finished law and started legal work.
Oh, that seems like so easy, right? Just got an MBA, got a CPA and like pretty easy to you.
Easy and you have to be in school and you also have to keep your student visa alive.
True. So was it driven the stages of going from getting your master's to getting a CPA and then did you do a JD or was it just a straight out?
JD, I did it part-time over 5 years.
Okay.
From Western States University, the largest law school in California.
So was it driven by, I mean, yes, one was the scholarship, but was it also to do with, did you sense an opportunity while you were doing your CPA work?
Yes, I did. I used to do new corporations, but I would charge clients money, but then I had an attorney friend who would take most of the money to do the corporation, but I would be doing all the work. Second, I remember reading an article in Wall Street Journal that the highest paid lawyer in the United States in 1988 was a tax lawyer at Skadden, charging $350 an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, $350 an hour. Maybe I become a tax lawyer and work 2 hours a day and that's it. But then you don't know the rest of it, that to get a client to work 2 hours a day, you need to have a big setup.
Right.
And then you get those clients.
So now you work 1 hour a day?
Now, actually, I don't work at all.
Well, I know that's not true. So growing up, maybe back in Nagpur or when you were here, what did you want to
make stuff? And I used to love making planes. And I was pretty sure I wanted to be an engineer. And then as I got older, I wanted to be a heart surgeon. And then reality set in and I got really bad grades in high school and I ended up with business.
So you ended up in business because you got bad grades?
Yes, that's the deal in India, right? If you're really good, you go to med school, second engineering, third commerce.
Well, for us it was, there was a fourth option which was if you're just generally a lost cause, you become a lawyer. Right? Because I used to argue a lot with my parents and they're like, you should become a lawyer.
Yes.
That was just the option. So that wasn't an option for you, but you ended up becoming
a typical Indian household, doctor or engineer, or you're a failure.
Yeah. So do you still play with toys? Like, are you hands-on? Did you get into like woodworking, any of such hobbies?
I used to, but I have slowly given all that up as well. After Angie's List came about, I dropped everything.
That was your alternate career.
Right.
So let's do a couple of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
You have multiple offices and I'm sure you travel quite a bit. What's your favorite city?
Favorite city is Honolulu, that I love, and my family is not very keen, so we don't go there often, but if I had a chance, if I had to go to one city and spend some time there or go for a vacation or live for a few months, it would be Honolulu.
Your second home would be out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this one might be interesting. Aishwarya, Shushmita or Deepika?
Wow. I hope nobody's watching, but it's obviously Sushmita because she once proposed to me and on stage in front of everyone at a Pratham event.
I think I was there.
Yes, and I asked her, so if you had to marry somebody today, who would you marry? And she's very good in speaking. So she didn't bat an eyelid and she came very close to me and she said, I'm into married men, and gave me a hug in front of everyone. So Sushmita.
Okay. So everything before that was said about Aishwarya. I know I've been at several events where you were either the host or the MC, and you had a thing for her, so it's all...
Yeah, but I never got a hug from her and neither a proposition, so she's out.
Okay, fair enough. If you ever ran for office, what would your slogan be?
Very simple. Make the world great again. One of the things I cherish about Sikhism, my religion, is that all of our prayers, we pray for humanity.
Right.
It's never for us or our family or ourselves. Every prayer is
For
make
everyone.
the world good.
Yeah. Okay. So, you're so many different things. You're an attorney, a CPA, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, just a social powerhouse. I mean, you know everyone that I can think of. But describe Navneet in one sentence.
Wow. Always tough to talk about yourself. But one sentence would be love and admire my family, friends, clients, and employees, and have an open mind and keep learning and take care of humanity.
Yeah, that is one sentence, but that's a lot. So, how did things start for you? What was the transition from once you got your MBA, you went out and set up a business? What went into that thought process?
So back then in the mid-80s, the H-1 visas were not very popular. So I got a job at one of the big 8 accounting firms, but their HR department didn't want to process H-1s. It was not in vogue back then. So then I had no choice but to find a smaller CPA firm, and then quickly I got my immigration status, and then I started my CPA firm out of necessity rather than almost anything else. And I remember signing up a lease and sitting a 500 square feet lease and sitting on the floor on the carpet like, what did I just do? No money to buy furniture, nothing. But then necessity is the mother of all inventions.
Yes.
So then I wrote letters to 500 people and got a client within 3 days.
Wow,
And that client is still my client 32 years later.
that's amazing.
Yes.
So, were your parents in business? Was there a history in the family of entrepreneurship?
No, they're all service people, all government of India and private company people. But that's America, right? That's the air in this country. Okay, you start a business.
But coming here, was that something you picked up in school or through your friends, that that's the American dream, is to be out on your own? Is that where it came from, or was there other things that were going on that led you to setting up your own thing?
To begin with, I would say it was a necessity, but slowly I realized that I could have gotten a job later on and moved, but then I was so happy with the practice. And I realized that I like doing what I'm doing, and then law school happened, so then I didn't have a choice for 5 years but to move along and kept my practice and went to law school part-time.
Who was your first customer?
It's actually a couple that live in Fullerton. I hope they don't mind my saying their name, but it's a Dr. Usha Iyer and her husband Shankar Iyer. And I started off doing accounting and taxes for them. Then the husband later on started a business, so I helped him with the business. Then years later we sold his business, so I did that transaction. Then he started other businesses and other issues, and till today they're my clients.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So that's great validation and great reference.
Yes.
So now you've expanded from just not, you're a CPA, but also you do different kinds of law. You're into immigration, business, consulting. So what is the scope?
The scope is that once you get a client, then you keep the client, and whatever service they want, we provide. So we're a full service law firm and a full service CPA firm. Deep down, we're 2 firms, 2 entities, and we have 5 offices in US and 6 in India, and about 500 people in total. the India offices are affiliate offices, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple of hundred lawyers and CPAs.
Right.
And we do everything, every kind of accounting, tax, audit, review, compilation work, and in law we do everything. Corporate tax, litigation, immigration, employment, M&A,
Mm-hmm.
criminal, divorce, bankruptcy, everything.
Wow. And you also have offices in Brazil and in Mexico.
Yes.
So if someone had to grow or have partnerships in those countries, you're also able to extend your services down there.
Yes. And our plan, long-term plan, is that we want to be in 50 cities around the world.
Wow. China and Canada on the list?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's a flat world now, and thanks to communication and all, bridges are being built between
Mm-hmm.
all 196 countries. So we want to be in the top 50 of these 196 countries,
Mm-hmm.
where medium-sized businesses, small businesses, and of course the big businesses that are doing business with each other, and especially if they have an Indian angle to it, then
Right.
even merrier. And the Indians are going out of India and doing business around the world. And so it's actually my clients that keep bugging me, hey, how come you're not in this country? We need help.
Right.
Can you go there? So it's client-driven, which is wonderful.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, in terms of, you said you have about 500 employees, and I know several of them having, been associated with them for almost 10 years now. And as a manager, as a leader, what's your philosophy? Like, how do you? I mean, you're a medium-sized company. What's your leadership philosophy, if I were to put it that way?
Well, I think they're happy because I'm not at the office, so that's point number one. People ask me, how do you manage these offices? And I say I have an MBA, and the MBA stands for Management by Absence. I think at some point you have to realize that in our simple business, it's just employees and clients.
Right.
And that's it, and the process. So HR, we don't have any factories, we don't have any machines.
Mm-hmm.
Our employees are our single largest asset.
Right.
That leaves home at 7 p.m. every day, or 6 or 8 or 9 or midnight. So we've tried to run a firm where we have 60 managers that run the firm.
Mm-hmm.
And these 60 managers have a tremendous amount of latitude, and they can do whatever they want, very minimal supervision or zero supervision.
Wow.
So it's their business, it's their firm.
Mm-hmm.
And all the employees are treated equally and fairly, and we emphasize on learning and encourage everyone to go to school, and the firm pays for it. We have a budget. I remember reading an article in an airplane once, 20-some years ago, that IBM spends $3,000 per employee on training, and I'm like, IBM has 300,000 employees, right. And they're spending $3,000, and so, okay, 500 employees, we can do that too.
Yeah.
So we do it.
Nice.
So we paid for probably 100 people are in college right now.
Oh.
That the firm's paying for.
And I also know they can pick whatever course they want to go to, and
yes.
to just explore their own choices.
We paid for weightlifting and piano.
Yeah, and there is a marathon coming up, which I believe your employees are going to.
Yes. Yeah. Anything the employees want to do, we don't say the word no.
That's pretty amazing. So, talking about the business itself, what has been, I guess, the most high-profile case? I mean, you don't have to name names, but whatever you can share.
We've had wonderful high-profile cases. We had a class action filed against our local Ziba Beauty,
Yeah.
and that got a lot of publicity, and in LA Times, and the case was handled aggressively, but ultimately we won. And after we won, I told Sumita at Ziba that, hey, can we publicize it that we won? And she said no. I said, when things were bad against you, then the world was publicizing. Now we should publicize
Right.
that we won the case. But no.
And that's Sumita.
But I enjoy working with the Ambani brothers, both Anil and Mukesh.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had massive litigation. I've handled class action lawsuits against a huge Indian IT company that,
Mm-hmm.
if I had lost, would have cost the company $100 million.
Wow.
But we won. That was probably the biggest case I handled in the last 10 years.
So sorry, go ahead.
And then we do a lot of M&A transactions. We've
Mm-hmm.
done about 500 deals in the last 15 years worth about 5 billion. So
Wow.
those are fun.
Awesome, and obviously you get a percentage of that.
Yes, and it's constructive work. We do divorce, criminal, bankruptcies, which is destructive work. But when there's a recession, then we do that kind of work.
So you pick and choose based on how the economy
Right,
is doing?
how the economy is doing. Hey, thank you for these cups. I really like them. I know if your family's involved in BombayMade.com.
Thank you.
Beautiful cups. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So in working through all of these cases, you know, I would imagine that a lot of people come to you when they're, if not at their most, but they're pretty vulnerable at that point, right? So they're coming to you with these challenges, immigration, divorce, like you said, maybe separation of other kinds. What have you learned in interacting with these people?
Yes, it can be very challenging at times. Immigration, of course, we've probably filed 1 million petitions in the last 25 years. And we've had a huge success rate, like very, very, very few cases that out of the 1 million, maybe 10 that went bad. But fortunately, immigration's kind of forgiving, and you get a second chance, and you can wait, you can fix things,
Right.
and you tell your client to fix things, and you get a second shot. But at that moment, it's pretty emotional. I have a sign on my desk that says TTSP, this too shall pass, so that helps. What at times is emotional is business divorces, partners falling apart, and then marriages falling apart. And with marriages, I've learned over a period of time, and I get involved when CEOs are getting divorced, when there's a lot of money involved. But over a period of time, I've become very bad, and I tell either the husband or wife I'm representing that, hey, I'm sorry you're my client, but if there are kids, I tell them that the 1, 2, 3 kids that are not in the courtroom, not in my office, I'm going to represent them and not you.
How does it work with, I'm thinking you also have, there's some amount of stress and a lot of responsibility that comes with it. Like when you mention these cases with, $100 million at stake, these are corporations, they probably understand the risk, but there are some high profile cases here where individuals are involved. How do you deal with all that stress and responsibility?
You're asking me that question's probably the first time I'm getting stress over this, but I think we're so comfortable and confident in what we do, and we believe in labor omnia vincit, work conquers all, and when the case is hard and difficult, we meet, and I put on the whiteboard in my office, labor omnia vincit, that okay, it's a difficult case, which means we're just going to work 2x hard, and we're not going to lose. And we're very good at settling cases, and when case is particularly bad, then you get out and settle at the best amount possible. It's very easy to settle cases. I don't know why people have difficult time settling cases. We can pretty much settle any case we want. And the toughest case I was telling you about that we won the $100 million one, they wanted to settle the night before for a piddly amount, and I said no. And my client said, no, settle it, pay it. I said no. In the morning, we'll see what happens. And my staff is mad at me, like, hello, we're getting out for a small amount of money. I said no. So that night, I told all my staff that no, we're not settling. Even the client said, pay the money, let's get out. And I go to my room, and I thought to myself, what did I just do? Tomorrow morning...
Am I going to regret this?
Yeah, and I'm going to do this trial and lose. But in the morning, the judge was mad at us that we didn't settle. She had given a day off in the middle of trial to settle. So I tapped on the opposing counsel, and I said, meet me outside. And he met me outside, and we paid a very tiny bit of money and left. And he agreed. Agreed for half of what he said a night before is my lowest amount.
Wow.
And then this attorney, after taking that money, left the country and nobody can find him. So I tell my opposing counsels that please don't mess with us.
So you had
Please
nothing
don't.
to do with that, obviously.
No.
So in going through all of these cases, a lot of it is, dealing with people and I guess understanding and not playing with, but mastering these emotions that come with all of these moments. Any funny instances that have come about?
Yeah, there's somebody once asked Charlie Munger that, hey, how do you get your sense of humor? And he said, what do you mean, how do you get your sense of humor? Look around the world, it's hilarious. And so every moment we've had fun. I remember a time where the judge called me and the opposing counsel in his room, and he said, why aren't you settling or whatever? And he gave us a lecture. And then he said to me, and sometimes I say things which at times I regret a little, very little of that happens, but this one I kind of regretted for a second. So he says to me, after we're done, the judge says to me, older guy, so he says, you're a Sikh, right? I said, yeah. So he says, are you carrying your sword with you? And I shouldn't have, but I said, Your Honor, it depends on how you're going to rule.
So you mentioned Charlie Munger, and that was like, I don't know how this works, but we got a comment from Monish. He says, we love Navneet. So
okay. Well, we love Monish.
Yeah, we do.
He's one of the best human beings alive in this planet.
Yeah. Hi, Monish. So thanks for watching. So, you've gone from being in Nagpur to now here being one of the most successful businessmen. What drives and motivates you?
It's the first answer is I don't know. Second answer is Peter Drucker, God bless him. He used to say that an organization that's not growing is dying.
Yes.
And so I don't remember where I read that 20 some years ago, but I get up in the morning and we gotta grow, otherwise we die. So we have this deep down motivation that we gotta grow. We have to go to more offices, we have to hire more people. And I have a rule in life, anybody who applies with our organization anywhere in the world, if they're good, whether or not we have a requirement, we hire them. Partly because we know that when we hire good people, work shows up.
It's just, yeah.
And so part of that is growth. Part of that is for our employees to keep them motivated, tell them, that, hey, go to school, learn more. Tomorrow we're going to have a bigger case, harder case. And we're sending everybody to school and continuing education courses. Then the firm has to grow as well as they're growing. Otherwise, they get bored and they don't have challenges. So we almost have to stay ahead of these 500 people that we're screaming at every day, hey, go to school. Then the firm has to go to school as well.
Right. That's an amazing way to think about it. So what are the next few things, professionally? What's the most exciting thing for you right now?
The most exciting thing is an impending retirement in the next 5, 10 years, 15 years.
For who?
For me.
I don't see that happening.
Well, I don't either, except for I have to listen to Andrew Carnegie, who died 100 some years ago, and would always say, divide your life in 3 pieces. First 1/3 study, and I finished law school when I was 31. And then the next 1/3 work, and the last 1/3 do social work.
Yeah.
So my second 1/3 of making money and working is going to end in 7 years.
But you're already stealing from some of the social work side of things.
Yes.
You've been doing that for, I don't know, at least for 15 years?
32 years. Nargis Dutt Memorial Foundation in 1985. Wow. Actually, we got involved in social work a few months before I started the practice. And so we've been doing social work all along. And Nitin, what I realized is I have a lot of rich clients, and then they work very hard, and like Warren Buffett, and they work very hard, and then when they get very old, and when they start realizing that, hey, I'm going to see God soon, if there is a God,
right.
And then they start doing charity work, and I'm like, why do I have to wait? Let me do it along the side, and I can see the results of our action. So our firm has been deeply involved in endless charity work, forming charities, supporting them, giving them guidance, doing business plans for them, raising money for them. The other day we were just roughly calculating we've raised $100 million for charities in the last 35 years. And what is exciting is I never thought it would happen in our lifetime. And as I said at Pratham last Saturday, that 97% of 6-year-olds are in school in India in first grade. I didn't think that would happen, and that's happened. And US is at 99%, and so another 2%. And of course, the quality of education needs to be better.
Right.
But India's made the curve, and I think 70 years of independence, we've come a long way.
Yes.
Somebody once said that it's a 1% country, that every year literacy goes up by 1%. It was like 18% when we got independence in 47, and now it's almost 87% 70 years later. Per capita income goes up every year, poverty goes down. India has removed 200 million people out of absolute poverty in the last 27 years. So things are shaping up. But a lot of work ahead. 600 million people don't have a toilet. 186 million people still in absolute poverty. But if we keep growing at 7, 8, 9, 10% GDP, all of that should be fixed in the next 15, 20 years.
I'm just amazed at how you just throw out these numbers. Like you're, I don't know, are you getting ready to go for election or something? It's just amazing.
Hard to remember, hard to forget that 600 million people don't have a toilet in India.
But I'm still amazed.
And we had the best plumbing 100 years ago in the world.
I know. We used to be like what? The role models for Singapore.
Yes.
I remember reading that in one of their, I guess it was one of the train stations where they said, and I think this was, I might be messing up the dates, maybe like in 1960 they said, we want to be like Bombay. And 40 years later, they were like, Bombay is nowhere close to where they were.
Right.
So,
and when China was being admitted into Security Council, India was in favor of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to tell 1.3 billion people of India one thing, that in the year 1500, 1600, 1700, 1750, India was the richest nation in the world. And how many people know that? And if they would know that, one, they would be very angry, like what happened.
Right.
We went from 25% of the world GDP in 1750 to 2.5% in 1991. In 90 years, we lost 90%. In 240 years, we lost 90% of the percentage of GDP. And then they would be like, hello, we can get back there. We were number one. So, okay, behind the race. But this self-esteem.
The self-esteem, the confidence. We can be there.
We used to be there.
So who's your role model?
Role model is my wonderful, successful clients. Role model is the 5 people who made America, Carnegie Mellon, Morgan, Ford, and Vanderbilt, the Gandhis and Nehrus and Jinnahs of the world that got us independence, and 1,000 good books and 100 good movies and 1,000 wonderful friends.
Oh, that's a lot to keep up with.
Slowly.
So what does success look like to you? I mean, you've talked about expansion, not just for the company, but for your team. So for you, how do you define success? I mean, in your profession, there is a clear win or loss, but looking beyond that, how do you define success?
Well, we started India about 13 years ago in 2004, and we allocated a chunk of money for India with 2 things in mind, that we want to create employment in India and continue growing in India. And our goal is that we want 1,000 lawyers in India, and we want to create a lot of employment. And India is not necessarily about money, it's about growing and creating employment. Because the best kind of charity you can do is to create jobs, and that helps society in probably the best way. So success is leaving the world a better place than what it was when you found it. Success is again, back to my religion, it just says, remember God, do good work, and share your wealth. And success is see if I can follow Andrew Carnegie's life motto to give the last 1/3 of your life to social work.
Yeah, which I think you've already given more than that, so you've achieved that one.
It's a lot of work needs to be done in India.
Yeah. How does being Indian impact your your thinking, your decisions?
I would tell my kids that growing up, all Indian kids in America complain about being Indian.
Yeah.
And so I would tell my kids that, listen, fine, you can complain about being Indian and Indian parents do this and you eat like this and your English is not good and you mix your V's and W's. And I would argue with my kids that, okay, fine, go back in time and you're about to leave heaven and come to earth and about to be born, and God says to you, what religion, what citizenship, what kind of nationality do you want? And would you pick anything better than an Indian? And in United States, the Indians should be very proud of what they've accomplished. We're a model minority.
Right.
And the per capita income of an Indian in United States is double of the other 320 million.
Yeah.
Yes. And college degrees and postgraduate degrees, and 10% of the physicians, 1.3 million physicians in the United States, 130,000
Yes.
Indian. And so we have to be 10% of everything in United States, 10% of Congress, and 10% of Forbes 400 richest people in the country, and 10% in all 12 corridors of power, from
That would be
Hollywood,
amazing.
Bollywood, medias, Wall Street, researchers, professors, deans, entrepreneurs, professionals, politicians.
And you're helping in that in a great way by with Thai, right? And I want to talk about Daikon that's coming up in 3 weeks now?
Yes, October 28th, Saturday.
The 28th, yeah. So, and for those of you that don't know Daikon, it's one of the largest gathering of entrepreneurs in Southern California. And like Navneet said, it's on the 28th October. You should check out the website. It's daikon.org/SoCal. So do check it out, or socal.thai.org.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think just type up Daikon SoCal and it'll
show up.
It's
Yeah.
the best entrepreneurship event in our community.
Yes.
And it's not limited to our community. Everyone's welcome. We will have 500 people there and 50 speakers morning till evening.
Yeah.
Lots of fun, lots of food, lots of networking opportunities, lots of booths.
And I can vouch for it. I've been to like at least 5 of them, and every single time I'm just amazed with the talent that's out here, and the things that they're working on. So thanks for doing that for the community.
Our pleasure. We thoroughly enjoy it.
So as we wrap this up, any advice for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yes, make a lot of money, rule number one. And I think there's no failures in this country and in entrepreneurship and in California. If this doesn't work, you start another one.
You learn from it.
You learn.
Yeah.
And I think I remember reading an article in 2000 in Newsweek when the new millennium started, and the author wrote an article about who's going to make money in the future. And he said people who live on or off the bridges are going to make a lot of money in the future. And the bridges being a bridge between India and US, and India and Brazil, and in US and Brazil, and all these bridges that are spanning now, virtual. So consultants, lawyers, CPAs, people who can operate in 2 countries,
both, yeah.
and of course technology. And so there's trillions of dollars of wealth is going to be created on or off these bridges. So I think the entrepreneurs look at how quickly Uber was able to go to other countries.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you this question. Do you invest in other entrepreneurs?
Yes, we do. We've had the same success rate and failure rate as all the other angels and VCs. 1 out of 10 works out, which pays for the other 9.
Yeah. Okay. So is there a specific forum? Would you recommend people who are looking to grow, would you recommend them to join Thai?
Yes, highly recommend to join Thai. Be there October 28th. And Thai is not just Los Angeles, it's 60 cities around the world.
Right.
All 60 cities have an angel forum where you can go pitch your ideas, raise money, get talent, get smart money,
Mentors.
be involved.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Navneet. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking out time for us, and and sharing with the rest of the entrepreneurial community.
Thank you. Keep doing this. It's really good for the community.
Thank you.
And thank you, Bombay Made.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. See you.